Hello everyone, it's Michelle Reber, the Intermediate Instructional Coach.
And Liz Burton, the Primary Instructional Coach.
And we are doing the screencast to go over the SIT process with you at Broken Arrow because it is going to look a little different this year to benefit classroom teachers, to make sure that you are getting the help that you need in your classroom with students who are having academic, behavioral, social, and emotional needs within your classroom. The checklist that we're going to go over will give you just step-by-step what needs to happen as a classroom teacher before you bring a student to the SIT team meetings, and what's going to happen during the SIT team meetings and what will happen afterwards.
So under Tier 1 for classroom teacher, the very first step that you need to follow is contacting parents to express any concerns that you have about their child. Discussing the possible reasons for the academic, behavioral, social, or emotional needs that you're seeing, and develop a plan of action to support the student, and maybe the parent can help come up with a plan of action. After you have decided on what you're going to try in your classroom, you need to document that in the student's DIAT. If you don't know how to document in the DIAT, you can contact Michelle or I, and we can come and show you how you would access the DIAT.
The next step you're going to take is to pull your resources from the student's previous year so you can speak to their teacher, or if you know of any interventionists that had worked with that student or any other colleagues within the building. You are going to talk about the solutions that they used, and hopefully they were successful with them and you can continue to implement them, or we have to come up with new solutions.
And then you're also going to, and this could kind of go with when you're talking to the years or to the previous year's teacher, is reviewing the documentation in the DIAT and also the CUME folder. So looking to see if anyone had recorded any information or data in the DIAT that would be helpful or useful for you.
Especially for our new Broken Arrow students, pulling that CUME folder is going to be really important because we will not have information unless they have attended another Shawnee Mission school. So looking in that CUME folder to see what kinds of documentation is in there about some possible issues that they were having previously. The next thing you're going to do is to
identify the problem. Is it an academic issue? Is it speech and language? Is it behavior? Is it social and emotional? To identify the exact problem and maybe try to find an intervention that will help with the solution to that problem.
The next thing you're going to want to do is to implement that intervention within your classroom, and you're going to want to try that intervention for at least 2 weeks, both with consistency and fidelity. That's going to be really important, so when we do come together as a SIT team that you have documentation on different interventions that you've tried and whether or not they have worked for that student.
And then finally, to wrap up the Tier 1 for classroom teacher, collecting all your data and putting it into the DIAT, making sure you're recording everything that you're doing in the DIAT, so that way teachers in years to come will be able to see what you've tried and whether or not you were successful.
Okay, so we're still in pre-SIT. We're moving on to Tier 2, and this is the classroom teacher and the building support resources that we have. So first, you're going to loop back up with the parents on the progress that you've been tracking with the interventions that you've been trying with the student. Have they been successful? Great, we're going to keep doing this. Have they not been successful? We need to come back and create some more interventions. So talk with the parents, loop back up with them, and give them your feedback on how things are going so far, making sure that we are inputting this information into the DIAT.
And then next, something that kind of just happens naturally is when you are met with a problem is contacting anyone and everyone that you can in our building. That would be reading specialist or our social worker, speech and language pathologist, a behavior coach, the resource specialist, anyone that is available to you, reaching out and discussing with them possible solutions or interventions that you could try in your classroom that would help the student, because remember, it's doing whatever is best for the student. So reaching out to anyone that is available to you that can provide a possible resource for you that can help the student.
After this discussion that you have with the resource team, you're going to then formulate new interventions to try within the classroom. Now, looking at the two types of interventions that you will be putting together, academic concerns, you will want to have tried these new interventions for at least 4 weeks with consistency and fidelity. Behavioral concerns, your new interventions are going to be put into a BIS plan for success, which can be you can get support from Tina LaPerry. She is really good at putting together those plans, and make sure you're implementing those interventions for at least 2 weeks with consistency and fidelity.
And then most important is after you have created your strategies and your interventions is making sure to record them in the DIAT so that way everyone knows exactly what you're trying, the dates you've tried it, and whether or not you were successful at it when you were using it. So finally, if the above interventions that you have tried to put in place are unsuccessful, then you're going to make a formal SIT team referral with either Michelle or myself, and I'm going to show you all of the forms that you'll use to make a referral. So the first thing you're going to do is either email Michelle or I, and we're going to set up a date and time for you for the SIT meeting.
The checklist that you are currently looking at needs to be completely marked off with all documentation from Tier 1 and Tier 2. So you have to make the parent contact. You have to put the interventions that were used in the DIAT with tracking information, which is the data collection, and that all has to be in the DIAT.
And then making sure to contact parents and let them know that you're going to be referring their child for SIT. The form that Michelle and I send home with the student to give to their parent should not be the first time they're hearing that their child is going to be brought up for SIT. It would be a much easier transition if they're hearing it from the teacher first, and maybe even a couple of times to let them know that you are trying some things in the classroom first before you bring them up for SIT. So just giving them kind of a heads up that, hey, I'm going to bring your child up for SIT, and you're going to be receiving an invitation to come to that meeting.
This SIT checklist will be something that Liz and I both send you both electronically as well as a hard copy that is laminated and will be in your mailbox as soon as we get an opportunity to do that. So make sure you're using this before you turn in your paperwork for SIT. So
we will send you a couple of forms. When you discuss with Michelle and I that you have a student that you are concerned about, we will send you a couple of things. The first thing that we will send you is this pre-SIT intervention log that we talked about putting in the DIAT. Some teachers would rather have a hard copy that they can write on with a pen or pencil to keep track of, and then they go back later and put it in the DIAT. That is totally fine. We can send this form for you so you can include all of the interventions that you're trying, when you started it and when you ended it, and if it worked or not. The other thing that we'll include with this is an example. Michelle made this page that had examples of different types of interventions that you might be able to use with your student. So in case you're a brand new teacher, you're not sure where to start, these give you some ideas of what interventions you might try.
So just to reiterate, you do not have to use this hard copy to document your interventions. Your documentation absolutely 100% has to be in the DIAT. So it's up to you whether you want to use the form or not. But it will be there for you if you'd like to do both, or you prefer to document on paper and then put in the DIAT.
The form that you're going to use, if you have tried your interventions, you've talked with the building resources, and you still are unable to come up with something that works for that student, this is the referral form that Michelle and I will send to you, and you'll fill this out and you will highlight all the areas that the student is really struggling with. And even if that's behavior, you will highlight the area that they're struggling with for behavior as well. You also need to make sure that you come up with at least one strength that the student has, so that way we kind of know where to start that works for them. So make sure you come up with at least one strength. It does ask the question if the DIAT is started, so remember, part of the checklist, it includes it on each tier, is that recording information in the DIAT. So then part of the referral form, if you're telling us that it is a behavior issue and you let Michelle and I know you need to bring a student up for sit, but it's a behavior issue, then we will send you this extension form. And so we just really want to know in what areas of behavior are you seeing the most issues that you have a problem with. So we'll send you the extension for you to fill out. Now, if you're doing it for academics, you will not receive this extension.
Okay, the next form is the student data log, and this data log will be useful for you because you will keep track of parent contacts and also put student scores in here. So you'll see a place for map reading, map math, STAR scores, their current classroom grades, and all of the subject areas. If they have DIBELS scores, just as much data as we can get on the student will really, really help us to help that student be successful and find some interventions that work. There's also a place for formative assessments that you do in your classroom. So as many pieces of data that we can pull together and that you can pull together from class will be really helpful in supporting your student.
In fact, we probably won't be able to have a sit meeting without some type of data. So we are providing this form just so you can prepare for the sit meeting. This is a form that you can bring to the sit meeting, have filled out. In fact, Michelle and I will make sure to email you the day before your sit meeting and ask if you have the data form filled out so you have something to bring to the sit meeting so we have kind of a baseline of where we're starting. So it looks like quite a few forms to fill out, but really when you look at it, it's just a matter of, so for the referral form, it's just a matter of highlighting things. There's not a lot of things that you have to type in there. So it looks like several forms, but really they're really easy to fill out and they don't take a lot of time.
Okay, the last form we have here is the actual sit process, and this is something that we will provide to you with your checklist so that you can see just kind of the flow of how sit will work. So again, we've got our pre-sit. It gives you the things that you need to do as far as the classroom teacher goes in getting a student started on some interventions, submitting the request, what the first sit meeting will look like, if we come back for a second sit meeting or a third sit meeting, just kind of the different things that will take place during those meetings to give you an overall picture of what sit will look like.
And just because it's on this form doesn't necessarily mean that this is your job. So when it says invite the parent or guardian and the teachers that need to come to the meeting, that's something that Michelle and I will take care of, as well as requesting the vision and hearing results. That is something we'll take care of. This is more just the process so you can see how it works, but that checklist is the one that you really want to pay closest attention to because this is not everything you need to do. This is just the sit process as a whole.
Okay, just to wrap things up, the purpose of sit is to help support teachers in the classroom to get some really good interventions, some strategies, and some ideas in place to better support our students. And we will be putting together a sit folder for every classroom teacher with the documents that we had mentioned before, the checklist and the sit process, as well as some of the other documents that we have shown you today so that you can kind of keep everything all together and stay organized. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Michelle or Liz. Thanks for listening.